How do you save a mountain range? Well, in a landmark case, India's Supreme Court realized the answer starts with an even bigger question. How do you even define a mountain in the first place? This is the story of the judgment that is going to shape the future of the ancient Aravali Range. And believe it or not, it all comes down to that one single question. To really get the weight of this case, you have to start where the court did, with a sense of pure awe. The judgment itself kicks off by saying, the Aravalis aren't just some hills. They are, and I'm quoting here, one of the oldest geological features on planet Earth. We're not just talking about geography. We're talking about living history that predates almost everything. Okay, so with that incredible sense of scale in our minds, let's talk about the stakes. Why does this ancient mountain range matter so much to modern India? Think of the Aravalis not as just a static line of mountains, but as a living, breathing protector. The court actually called it a green barrier, a shield that is literally stopping the Thar Desert from swallowing the fertile plains of North India. It's this cradle of biodiversity, it shapes climate patterns, it feeds vital rivers. It is, for all intents and purposes, the ecological heart of the entire region. But this guardian has been under a relentless attack. For decades, you've had illegal mining, deforestation, and cities just sprawling outwards, chipping away at this geological wonder. The court's own documents called it widespread ecosystem damage. That green barrier, yeah, it was starting to break down. And this, right here, brings us to the very core of the legal fight. The reason all this damage was happening so easily came down to a pretty shocking, almost unbelievable problem. Nobody could actually agree on what an Aravali Hill was. And that is the central question the Supreme Court had to grapple with. It's a powerful and, a really simple dilemma. If you can't draw a line on a map and say, this part is protected, how in the world can you stop a bulldozer or a mining operation? That lack of a clear definition, it was the biggest loophole of them all. And right here, you can just see the chaos this created. The Aravali Range cuts across 4 different states, and each one had its own idea of what counted. Rajasthan, Gujarat, Delhi, all using different yardsticks. And then you have Haryana, which incredibly had no official definition at all. This mess of rules, or, the total lack of them, basically created a free-for-all. It made it nearly impossible to enforce any kind of real protection. So, to cut through all of that chaos, the Supreme Court finally stepped in. It ordered a special committee to be formed with one single urgent mission: create one uniform definition for the Aravali Hills that would apply across all 4 states. One standard to end the madness. And what that committee came back with? Well, it became the dramatic climax of this entire case. It was a simple rule, but it was one that was fiercely, fiercely debated. This was their solution: a clear, measurable standard. Essentially, they said any hill that rises 100 meters or more from the ground right around it would officially be called an Aravali Hill and get protection. It was simple, objective, and it was supposed to be the final word. But it was incredibly divisive. On one side, you had environmentalists and the court's own advisor who were just horrified. They argued this rule would create a devastating new loophole. Any hill that was, say, 99 meters high would be left completely unprotected, basically putting a target on thousands of smaller but still ecologically vital hills. But on the other side, the committee argued their simple definition was a net positive, that it was so clear and broad it would actually end up protecting a larger total area than the old, confusing definitions ever did. You could feel the tension. The court's own expert advisor, the Amicus gave this really stark warning. He argued that accepting the 100-meter rule would, in fact, totally endanger the very ecosystem the court was trying so desperately to save. The court was truly at a crossroads. So, how did the court handle this? Well, they didn't just pick a side. Instead, they came up with this really nuanced, multi-part verdict that was a true balancing act. So let's break this down. First, yes, they did accept the 100-meter definition. That gave everyone the single uniform standard they needed. But, and this is the really crucial part, they immediately attached 3 powerful conditions. They ordered a massive scientific study for the whole range to figure out where mining could happen sustainably. And until that study is done, they slapped a complete ban on any new mining leases. And finally, they said existing legal mines could keep going, but only under the absolute strictest supervision. What's so fascinating here is the court's logic. They knew from past experience that a total, absolute ban on all mining can actually backfire. It often just creates a black market and fuels illegal mining mafias. So their solution was to keep the legal industry running, but under a microscope. while hitting the pause button on all future expansion until a proper scientific plan was in place. It's really pragmatism married with precaution. So this judgment didn't just solve an old problem, it created an entirely new reality on the ground. Let's take a look at what the future now holds for the Aravalis. So what happens now? Well, the legal mining landscape is basically frozen. No new operations can start. The future hinges completely on this massive scientific survey, the Management Plan for Sustainable Mining, or MPSM. Think of this plan like a detailed MRI of the entire mountain range. It's going to map out the critical zones where mining must be banned forever, and maybe identify other areas where it could be possible, but only under very strict science-based rules. And that really is the final takeaway. The court has moved the conversation beyond a simple legal number, like the 100-meter rule. The long-term survival of the Aravalis no longer depends on a line in a law book, but on a living, breathing, scientific blueprint designed to guide its future for generations to come. The judgment is written, the court has spoken, but this story is far from over. The new framework is in place, but it leaves us all with a really profound and urgent question. In a world with an ever-increasing demand for resources, can even the most sophisticated scientific plan be enough to protect an ancient guardian? The fate of one of our planet's oldest mountain ranges really does hang in the balance.